Technology is the easy part. The tools work, but if you haven't done the human work, building trust, creating clarity, and transferring that capability, the best technology in the world will just sit there unused.
If professional services marketing sometimes feels like throwing spaghetti at the wall to see what sticks, this podcast is for you. Welcome to Educated Spaghetti, marketing ideas that stick, presented by Right Hat. On each episode, your host, brand strategist Lise Anne Schwartz, sits down with marketing pros and creative thinkers to untangle the marketing chaos. So pull up a chair at the Educated Spaghetti table and let's dig in.
Today, we're talking about innovation in professional services firms and how to take it from being a promise to becoming a reality with meaning for your clients. My guest is Lani Beer, an innovation architect and transformation facilitator based in Melbourne, Australia. For 2 decades, Lani has led transformation across professional services industries, including banking, insurance, and law, helping people and organizations thrive through change. Recently, her portfolio has focused on AI testing, adoption, and coaching. Lani, welcome to the podcast.
Oh, it's great to be here. Thank you.
So what does an innovation expert and transformation facilitator do?
I think innovation isn't about having brilliant ideas because those are everywhere. It's about creating the conditions where good ideas can actually become real. So my work is really helping organizations test ideas safely, understand what's true in their context, and design change that sticks. And I use facilitation systems, systems thinking, and AI adoption experience to really create those environments where people can explore possibilities without feeling overwhelmed. So I think at its heart, the role is about helping people move from uncertainty to clarity.
How do you define innovation in professional services?
That's a good question. I think innovation is one of those words, isn't it? It means so many things. But I believe it's the practice of turning uncertainty into progress. So it's not a brainstorm or the newest tool. It's really noticing those unmet needs and trying small experiments and then proving value in the real world. And a good example here is, I remember a team once showing me 6 spreadsheets they were juggling just to track one process. And they said, we know it's ridiculous, but it's how we survive. We didn't create something flashy. We simplified the workflow, but saved them hours each week. And I think that's innovation. It's impact, not novelty.
What kinds of projects do you find yourself dealing with now?
I think in professional services, innovation often lands in 3 places. It's making knowledge work less manual. It's improving the client experience and turnaround times. And it's freeing experts from repetitive tasks so they can focus on judgment and the relationship side. So it can be tools, it could be processes, it could be a new service model or a cultural shift. But I think the best innovation really reduce that friction for both the practitioner and the client.
How does that relate to the growth of AI in professional services?
Yeah, that's a great question. That's the bit I'm sort of really, in the space of trying to, bring the two together. And I think AI is a really good sparring partner because it challenges your thinking and it generates lots of options and accelerates the learning. So I describe it like a brilliant intern. Incredibly fast, occasionally wrong, with confidence, and needing your judgment to steer it. So it's not a substitute for Google. It's definitely not a replacement for human expertise either. And so I think the question everyone's really asking is, will AI replace me? But that's actually not the right question. I think the right question is, am I using AI to become irreplaceable? Because the more you learn to partner with it, the more valuable you actually become.
I recently heard you say that sequence matters more than speed when it comes to innovation. What does that mean?
I think most organizations try and solve everything at once, and that could be a reason why they might fail. So I believe sequence means identifying which challenge is causing the others. It's a bit like, untangling headphones. If you pull the wrong end first, you might make it worse. And I see this constantly with AI pilots. A company will say, we have 5 AI initiatives running. But when you look closer, their leadership team hasn't actually agreed on what success looks like. The data isn't ready. People are anxious about job security. And the value isn't actually clear yet. And so all 5 problems feel really equally urgent, but they're not. The leadership clarity, I think, is the most, important, because without it, the other 4 challenges become a lot harder. So sequence means stop adding, start aligning, and find what your blocker is and solve that first. And then the next challenge will become a lot easier. So for me, speed feels productive, but sequence actually delivers the result.
So, how do you help leadership determine what to prioritize?
I look for 2 things, I think. Either something is breaking or slowing the business down, or people have created a workaround or a shadow process which shows the system has already evolved without leadership noticing. And so when both show up, I think innovation isn't optional, it's actually overdue. And so for prioritization, I ask, which problem is causing the others? That's really a starting point, because if you try and fix 5 things at once, then you're not going to find the right thing to solve. So try and find what's the upstream and then go from there.
In professional services, are organizations mostly looking for change that's going to make an internal improvement or change that's going to make a difference to their clients?
I think in professional services, people are looking at changes for their clients predominantly. And especially, the world is quite competitive, and, with AI and, various environments that we're dealing with at the moment, I think everybody wants to be competitive. So they're looking at their clients, which is great. At the same time, I think the risk is that if you don't look internally and make your own organization work really well, you risk losing people. Because I think people get tired of, processes that are not working well, or structures that aren't, are clunky and not great, and, user experience. And so I see a lot of companies who are very focused on their clients, which is great, but not so great on their internal side of things, which makes the employee experience not fun.
Well, you recently led a webinar that noted that some 95% of generative AI pilots fail to scale, and that about 70% of those failures are caused by human factors. Those are some pretty impressive numbers. What are some of those factors that cause the AI failures?
Mm. I think the statistics are sobering, and they tell us something hopeful, because this is actually solvable, and we know what the human factors are. So what I'm seeing is that the common blockers, from the research I've been doing, is fear and uncertainty. I think people are scared. Is this something that's going to replace me? Because until you address that directly, people don't engage authentically. I think the other thing is leadership misalignment. Multiple executives pursuing different AI visions with no clear owner. And I call this governance chaos. People don't know who to listen to. And then you've got the capability and the capacity gaps. So we're deploying tools, but we're not actually building capability. So it's like handing someone, car keys without teaching them to drive. And, we're either fully using the same resources all the time, or we're not training people enough or fast enough. I think one of the other blockers is trust and legitimacy. Working guardrails are either missing entirely or overkill, with multiple committees. So I think I'm seeing organisations swing between anything goes and then governance paralysis. The other piece I think that we see is because technology is moving so quickly, people are feeling like they have to rush to scale. And so organizations are skipping the small experiments that build confidence and go straight into a pilot. And then they're wondering why adoption is not, is so terrible. So with all that, I think the most important thing is we're missing the why. People are told to use AI, but not why it matters to them or their clients. And so, I think here's what's interesting. Technology is the easy part. The tools work, but if you haven't done the human work, building trust, creating clarity, and transferring that capability, the best technology in the world will just sit there unused. So that's why I focus on the human factors first, getting those right, and then the technology actually has a chance to be successful.
How do you support adoption?
Yeah, it's a great question. I think sustainable adoption grows best in a community where people feel that they are building the future, not just adapting to one. So I use storytelling use cases from, different peers and colleagues, both good ones and bad ones. I like to have people who want to work with this. So I try and find champions who are going to model some of the behaviors. And those are people that are not just leaders, they're people throughout an organization. So that you've got, you've got that diversity and people telling stories around their experience and making it really safe for people to, ask questions. And, I love it when you get somebody really senior working with somebody junior and they've got the confidence and the space to tell the senior person how they've used something. And then, the senior person really leans in and wants to learn. But you have to give people space to adopt at their own pace and, grab onto those stories from peers, build a community around that change. And that's when you can really get change to stick and adoption can grow.
How do you build that community and create that space? We're all working so quickly, so, grabbing at little pieces of AI here and there. I'm going to try this, I'm going to try that. It seems like it would be very difficult to really share experiences and build this sort of group of stories and group of people.
I think you actually need to set up a community of practice. So you actually need an environment and having that environment where people want to tell their story or learn from people who've been using this. And it can be really simple. It could be something, where people, 20 minutes once a week meet up and over a cup of coffee or a cup of tea and, decide what they're going to talk about, have 5 minutes on a topic and discuss and share. Or another way I've seen really work, especially with AI adoption, is actually leaders making space into their operational meetings for use cases to be shared. Here's what we've tried this week. Here's what worked well. Here's what didn't. And making sure they've got a topic on the agenda for AI or whichever change or innovation that you're pursuing. And I've seen that really well because it's not an ad. It's how do we incorporate this into what we do every day?
I'd love it if you would tell me about a project that you led and something that you learned from it.
Sure. I think one of my strongest examples is the AI adoption work that I led in a legal environment. We had really advanced tools, but we knew the rollout would fail without that clarity and that psychological safety and some real proof points. Because we all know that lawyers like real proof points. So we focused on the champions, having some clear success and failure criteria. And we worked in like short sprints. So each week we set a goal for the participants. And at the end of the week, they did a showcase and they shared what they learned and what they wanted to know more about. We also had some really strong guardrails. And so we set, clear criteria and success measures for the experiment. And this really helped people go, well, I've tested this and it works or it doesn't work. And then the weekly showcase allowed them to really share their stories. So the result here was that we had high adoption, really strong governance, and no sort of technical issues because they had the space to work in. And I guess my learning from this was that people actually don't resist change. They resist feeling unprepared. So the breakthrough moment wasn't when we perfected the technology. It was when people realized that they were shaping the change, not just receiving it.
How can an organization turn innovation into a selling point for clients or prospects, or really demonstrate its real benefits to people?
I think clients don't want promises. They want proof. They want to see where things translate into an actual outcome. And so proof looks like a faster turnaround time, a clear metric, a better outcome that they can actually feel, and that transparent governance. Because when clients trust how you work, not just what you deliver, innovation becomes part of your value proposition. And I think, one team I work with, could point to 40% faster contract turnaround with zero compliance. And so that's the kind of proof that really builds confidence with a client, because they were able to do something faster and it didn't cause any issues, and it was tangible, they could touch it and they could feel it.
That's a great example because it is so tangible. What are some other ways to show the ROI for innovation?
I love this question, I think, because this is where organizations often trap themselves by measuring either the wrong thing or too many things. So the mistake is measuring activity instead of outcome. So we're running 6 pilots, tells you nothing about the value. So here's what actually works. Start with productivity metrics, time saved or error reduction or a faster turnaround, because those are concrete and measurable. A team that used to spend 8 hours on fraud detection now spends 2 hours. That's, ROI. Then move to the business metric. So what's the revenue impact? What's the client satisfaction? What are the retention rates? Did the innovation actually change an outcome that matters to the business? But don't forget the risk reduction. Have you avoided compliance? Have you, made audit findings transparent? Have you got, reputational protection? Because sometimes ROI isn't what didn't go wrong. And then I think it's make it client facing. So the most powerful ROI is when a client say, this is better. Because client feedback is proof that you can't manufacture. But I think here's the truth. If you can't articulate value clearly, you probably haven't actually created it yet. And that's useful information too, because it tells you to pause and reassess before scaling something.
What can an organization do to build an innovation culture?
Well, you don't need an innovation lab. You actually need an innovation mindset. And that looks like rewarding curiosity, normalizing small experiments, and creating that space to test and things through, making learning visible. I think you need to align innovation to client needs and gaps. And then you've got to empower, trust, and support your team to be really, really curious. So it's not just rewarding it, but you're really empowering and trusting people. And culture isn't a workshop, and it's probably not even a strategy. It's the pattern of everyday decisions. So it's what gets celebrated, what gets questioned, what gets funding. That really tells. So you can workshop innovation if you want, but if people get punished for failing, then you don't have an innovation culture. You have innovation theatre. So it's pretend. And so it's every day, what can we do better? And allowing that space for people to really be creative.
What do you enjoy about working in an innovation space?
I really love helping people move from, I'm not sure about this, to I can do it. Because I think innovation gives people agency. So there's a moment when someone realizes that they're helping build a future. That's, for me, the best part of my job.
If people want to learn more, what are some resources that you would recommend for education or inspiration around AI adoption or innovation in general?
So I curate resources that build both AI literacy and transformation capability because I think you need both. And so I'm going to give you a few. The first one is Nest Labs. This is Anne-Laure Lecomte, who's a French lady. She's also written a book called Tiny Experiments. What I love about her work is the practical mental clarity and structured experimentation tips that she provides. There's Section School, and they're really grounded AI literacy for business leaders. There's Ethan Mollick, his newsletter, One Useful Thing. It's really digestible and it uses applied AI research. Donna Meadows' project, Essential System Thinking Fundamentals, is fantastic if you want to understand how things work in a simple way and how we're all connected. One of my favorite resources is The Coaching Habit by Michael Bungay Stanier. Now, he wrote this book, I think it's 10 years ago, but he's actually releasing a new version out in February. And this uses really powerful questions that really build capability. And I'm really excited for the new book. So these resources really help people navigate both AI and human transformation, which is really where I think innovation lives.
Well, we will include all of these in our Educated Spaghetti takeout sheet that people can download when they listen to the podcast. Lani, what would you say is the secret sauce for success in innovation transformation?
I think it's co-creating environments where change feels safe. Because when safety and ambition sit together, innovation becomes inevitable.
If listeners want to connect with you, where's the best place for them to find you?
LinkedIn is the best place to find me. I also partner with a small group of individuals, really smart individuals, at Source Agility, where we help clients reach their AI ambitions.
Wonderful. Well, this has been a very transformative episode. Thank you so much for being with us, Lani, and sharing all of this great information and wonderful ideas.
Oh, thank you so much for having me.
That's today's serving of Educated Spaghetti. Thank you to Maddie Lingle for producing this episode and managing our social media, Charlene Fabi for our logo design and music, and you for listening. To comment on today's topic or suggest future episodes, visit righthat.com. If you enjoyed this episode, please like and subscribe wherever you get your podcasts. We hope you'll join us next time for more marketing ideas that stick.